Hello and welcome everyone. Today at IGL I'm going to show you how I've managed to set up this little robot character for my project. As you can see, the first few animations are quite simple. You have your very simple idle, which then goes to walk, which then goes to run, depending on the character speed, that is. In here there's a little invisible box that triggers the hover mode for the robot. Which consists of a blend space allowing the robot to basically start the animation of hovering from the ground up, loop it, and then once it's finished to basically perform the landing animation. In this current level, the robot is just set to a fixed path. It means that the robot will basically follow the spline set by me, and it will loop itself all the way around that specific spline path and start again. The next animation I'm going to show you is, as you saw from the little intro, I've managed to set up a completely hover combat mode for the robot and few physics based boxes. For now the speed and the force is quite high for the projectiles themselves, but I will eventually tweak those values to improve upon the overall experience. If we first have a look at this folder, you're able to see that I'm using a skeletal mesh with two blend spaces. The walk blend space allows the robot character to smoothly transition from idle to walk to then run/sprint. As you can see here, if I hold down Shift on my keyboard and move my mouse at the same time, I'm able to preview these animations and the overall speed of the animation. The second blend space is in hover mode. It works quite similar to how the initial idle to walk/run blend space would work. And here you're able to see that the robot will perform separate actions, so depending on the robot's speed, meaning that if the robot's speed is at 0, the robot will actually aim its arms at a specific target. Then when it gets to about 25, it will then start doing the hover, and then going from here it will go forward. And at this point you're able to see that the speed is about 200. Going into the animation blueprint, you're able to see that the entry point is going to idle. Then from idle, the character can either walk/run and then go back to idle. The character can either go to jump and then go back to idle from jumping, which I'm still going to be working on a smooth transition for this current animation, so that I can have a similar setup as I've done for the hover mode. Basically, going from idle to hover start, as the basic animation applies, it then goes to loop, meaning that the robot will stay in midair, and then finally it will go to land. Now if we look at the NPC robot character blueprint, we're able to see that from the beginning of the game, the robot will actually wait for 5 seconds before it will perform this timer function, which is right here. The crate will be set to destroyed once it has been hit by the projectile the robot emits. After that, we're checking for the actual distance between the character, meaning self, and all of the crates. And if the distance is smaller or equal to 500 units, we're then going to set another boolean to crate focused. This is to allow one of the animations to basically pause for that current moment so it doesn't play. And we'll rotate the actor by getting the world location of our current character and the actor location from the crate. Then we will plug it in to find look at rotation, meaning starting from the robot, looking at the crate as a target, and then as I said before, it will perform this set actor rotation meaning look at the crate. Let me just delete this part as I'm not currently using this. Once the robot has turned around and is currently looking at the crate, the robot will take additional 4 seconds before it fires the projectile. If we look at the projectile custom event that I've created, you're going to be able to see that I'm actually spawning another blueprint, which is the projectile robot, and I'm setting its location to be the socket name that I've placed on the skeleton from my actual mesh. As for the rotation of the projectile, the rotation itself is set to world rotation of the capsule component from our character. If we quickly have a look at the projectile blueprint for the robot, we will be able to see that it's just a simple particle system right here with a trigger collision and a projectile movement, which I've set as some default values here for the initial speed and max speed, as well as turned off the gravity, meaning that the bullet or projectile even won't be dragged down to the floor. And if I just quickly simulate this, you're able to see that the projectile flies towards the x-axis with the speed of 1000 units. If I did, however, turn the gravity back to 1 as a default value, you're able to see that the projectile falls to the ground. Now, looking at the event graph, all I'm doing here is basically grabbing the trigger box from the sphere collision, and I'm setting it to ignore absolutely everything other than the physics body actors. From here you can see that I'm currently doing on component begin overlap, which is right here, and I'm checking what actor the trigger box is currently overlapping with, which is the blueprint physics crate. Right here, as the cast has successfully passed through, it simulates physics, but this, however, is a custom event, which I'm going to demonstrate how it's all set up in just a second. After that event is finished, I'm spawning another blueprint, which is basically the projectile burst, allowing for the overall explosion of the projectile. The projectile itself is spawned at the trigger location of this current blueprint. I'm going to show you this part in just a moment. After a short delay, I'm destroying this specific blueprint so that it doesn't use any more memory. The reason I am putting this small delay just before the destroy actor is sometimes you can have some errors, including destroyed actors, meaning that it can't destroy because it no longer exists. By doing a slight delay of 0.1 seconds, you're able to avoid further errors. If I go to the Simulate Physics tab now, and I open this up, you're able to see that it's inside of the physics crate, and in here, I've separated the crate into 6 different sides for the panels, and 1 frame/cage to surround it all. As default, all of these are set to simulate physics to off, and the cage itself has a mass value of 10. I will readjust these values at some point in the future. Back in the event graph for the physics crate, you're able to see again that I've dragged all of these static meshes out of here onto here, made an array, then for each one of them I'm setting simulate physics. You're able to see here that I've got 2 components, one as a trigger box with a sphere, and another one with a radial force. The impulse strength is just to give the actual projectile burst a little bit more power in order to throw the boxes / the crates around the level a little bit more. Now inside of the event graph for projectile burst blueprint, I'm checking again for the begin overlap on the trigger box to cast again to the physics crate. If it has hit the physics crate, I'm doing do once, which performs everything right behind the do once, only once. This is simply made for performance sake, as well as so I don't have so many particles just flying about. Then I'm doing a multi-sphere trace by channel, which is basically raycast, but in a sphere shape. It's called specifically multi because it can hit multiple targets at once and more than once. But it also means that it won't just affect the initial target that is hit, it will also affect anything that's around it. Then in here I'm checking whether it's actually hit anything, and for each thing that the multi-sphere has hit, I'm breaking the hit results, and I'm checking again whether that hit result is the physics crate. If it is, I'm actually using this radial force from here to fire the impulse, which basically fires the 2000 units from the impulse strength. Another cool little feature that I've added is for the robot to actually look at the player as it's walking. Doesn't matter what kind of animation the robot is doing, it will turn its head at a fixed position dependent on whether the player is in front of the robot himself. This in turn looks a little bit more immersive and allows for the robot to feel a little bit more alive. I understand that the overall animations of the robot already makes it more alive, but this just adds a little extra touch on top of it, in my personal opinion. I've also made the robot highly customizable, so if you actually duplicate this robot, then look at the material setup. They are all set to public inside of the actual blueprint. So now I can go to metal, since the first material is set as metal, and these are all of my material instances that I've created. So I can have the robot being blue, for example, as the metal base, or simply yellow, pink, gold / orange. It also allows me to set up the different colors for the glass as well, so I can just drag and drop different glass colors, and of course the emissives as well for the eyes / the ears / the head. Thank you for watching the devlog for this week for Marvel's Razor's Wrath, the Cognition DLC. I'm planning to release one episode each week. Either way, stay tuned. Follow me on other social media, the links will be provided in the description below. Same as last time, don't forget to subscribe, follow and obey. Peace.